I am Ryan Gall from the Utah Geological Survey, and I'm here today with my colleague, Dr. Gabriella St. Pierre. She'll talk after me. So the Utah Geological Survey has had a big investment in the Uinta Basin since the beginning. We've been out here studying the rocks, and it's been a really important thing on our agenda because there's a lot of money here, right? And I have plenty of fun slides to show you today. It's late in the day. If I see any eyes starting to glaze over, we're going to switch slides and go to a new slide and talk about the fun pictures and keep on moving on. I want to keep people engaged and interested. So, okay, slides are here. My background, I started working in the Uinta Basin actually over 10 years ago as a graduate student at the University of Utah. And after that, I never really quite left. And for the last 7 years, I've been working at the Utah Geological Survey in the Energy and Minerals program, looking specifically at Uinta Basin energy deposits. So topics for today, we're going to talk about the Utah Geological Survey, what it is and what we do and why it matters here. We'll cover our Utah Core Research Center, which is a really, really invaluable resource to this basin. We'll cover some of our research topics in geologic mapping, oil and gas, and critical minerals. And then Gabby will take over and talk about our studies in carbon capture, and also talk about our public data sets. Also, this photo I took 3 years ago, this time of year, and it's when I learned that it's truly black gold at the end of a Uinta Basin rainbow. So the Utah Geological Survey. There are a lot of words in this slide, but there's something I really want to focus on, and that's our mission statement. And as summarized by Genevieve Atwood, a former director, the Utah Geological Survey aims to make Utah safer, richer, and more geologically understood. Those are our values, that is our everyday mission, and we have 6 different programs that are focused on doing that. They're listed in the bottom right. So there's energy and minerals. That's where I work, as well as my colleague who's here today. We have a geologic hazards team. They focus on earthquakes and landslides. We have a robust mapping and paleontology team. We have a growing groundwater and wetlands team. That's increasingly important in the state. And then we have 2 different teams that help disseminate all the information and data that we gather out to the public. I've also listed our values in this slide, and there are 2 that I really want to highlight. And that is that we aim for integrity and objectivity in everything we do. So objectivity is the important word here. We are a non-regulatory agency. We really just focus on making good data with science. And we want to bring that data to people here that are making decisions in the basin and decisions elsewhere in the state in terms of economic development and for safety. We are the scientists giving you the data. That's our goal. And we do this with the idea of free exchange of information. We want to freely share. We want people to contact us, ask us what we're up to. Also, we want to hear from you and hear what kind of information you think would help make this a better basin and Utah a better state in terms of geologic knowledge. So, energy and minerals. This is the Make Utah Richer group, right? We have a bunch of geologists, 16 of us, that all wear 1 or 2 hats, studying critical minerals, oil and gas, carbon storage, energy statistics, geothermal, coal, industrial minerals, such as the Simplot mine north of town, and a whole set of staff devoted just to the Core Center. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the Core Center. What this is a big warehouse in Salt Lake City. It's at our DNR headquarters. And this big warehouse is full of boxes and boxes and boxes filled with rocks. Rocks everywhere in this building. And we like to think of this building full of rocks as a library. Just like you can go to a library in town and check out a book, read it, gain all sorts of new information, you can come to the Utah Core Research Center and check out a piece of Utah's subsurface. This is incredible data that is accessible and stored as a library. Now, this library consists of cuttings, mostly from oil and gas wells, core, our most valuable asset by far, and also thin sections. So thin sections, for those that don't know, are really, really thin slices of rock that you can look at through a microscope and learn a lot about reservoir quality. So this slide is showing actually our data set that we house at the Utah Core Research Center. All of the red dots on the map are where we have core, and all of the orange dots are where we have cuttings. This is a huge data set. We have over 1,500 cores in our collection, and if we would lay them all out, they would stretch out over 75 miles. That's here to price. That's a lot of core information, and most of it is coming from the Uinta Basin. That's because that's where the industry is here. That's where we have the best data. We also have a lot from the Paradox Basin, again, where there's a lot of oil and gas activity. The pie chart here just shows and emphasizes that we have 80% of this data actually coming from oil and gas industry, but we have core from other industries as well. Mining, tar sands, water, coal, potash, oil shale. And if we were to recreate this core data set, it's estimated that it would be a $10 billion investment to recreate it. So this warehouse is storing a huge amount of investments already made in Utah available for people to learn from now. I would also say in some ways this data set is invaluable because a lot of this core data is coming from places that we will never drill again. They are on protected lands or in private lands that subsurface data just will not be accessible. We have data that just is in-house and won't be gotten again. So the utility, why is this actually important? And it's because people are coming to study the subsurface and using this previously collected data to learn about their acreage. Here in the Uinta Basin, we have core from every target that people are looking at, and some of it right on the exact acreage that people are drilling now. And getting core is really, really expensive, but if you can come over to the Utah Core Research Center and look at the data that's already been collected and even do analytical testing on it, overall this is saving companies millions of dollars. Really, really valuable data set. So just last year we had over 1,300 visitors to emphasize how much people actually use this center, and most of them are coming to study the Uinta Basin. I'll say that again. Most people coming to the Salt Lake City, Utah Core Research Center are coming to study the Uinta Basin. People are really, really interested, and this library is telling people a lot and helping companies make more money out here. At the Utah Core Research Center, we also host workshops. So just last winter, we held a Green River Formation workshop looking at new and upcoming targets in the Green River. And we had 30 geologists come out from 13 operators here in the basin and came together to learn together. I would say it was incredibly successful, and because of that, we're doing another one this coming winter on the main coast, designed specifically for operating geologists in this basin. Okay, last slide on the Utah Core Research Center, but I just couldn't skip including this fun information. We have some really unique collections, including core taken from Utah's only offshore drilling program. And that's a funny thing to say because in oil and gas world, offshore means you're in an ocean, Gulf of Mexico, off the West Coast. But back in the 1970s, Amoco had an offshore drilling program in the north arm of the Great Salt Lake. And they started this drilling program because there are oil seeps actually along the north margin of the Great Salt Lake. And when they cored down, they found that this oil was held in basalt, which is something totally bizarre. Basalt is an igneous rock, nothing that we drill anywhere in the world, but it does host hydrocarbons in the Great Salt Lake. Is it economic? Not right now. So a little bit about the types of research we do. Geologic mapping. This is kind of one of the fundamental parts of any oil and gas or mineral exploration. Maps are your basic data input, and we have awesome surface mapping across the entire Uinta Basin. To kind of highlight the utility of these maps, I'm showing our recent publication of the Duchesne Quadrangle. So this is kind of the northwestern part of the Uinta Basin. And since this was published in 2024, it's quickly become one of our most downloaded publications from our entire UGS database. So we have 2,500 publications that people can come and download. This is consistently in the top 5 every month since we published it. People are using this Uinta Basin data, and a big part of the reason people are using this is because it's showing potential areas for local frac sand mines in areas that are prospective or even currently exploited. All of our map data is available on our website, and it also comes with GIS data, so your technical teams are able to pull this information straight into their software and run with it. We're trying to make it easy for people that are working out here. So in oil and gas world, this is where I spend my time thinking about ancient environments, and now I have a captive audience to also make them think about ancient environments. So in this basin, we have two different ancient environments that are producing oil. On the left side of the slide is a paleogeographic reconstruction of Western North America about 50 million years ago. So this is in the Eocene. Rhinoceroses were running around the state of Utah at this time. And the Uinta Basin was covered by a giant lake. We call this ancient Lake Uinta. This lake is solely responsible for almost all of the oil pulled out of this basin. And that's incredibly unique, and we'll get into it about why later. Now, on the right side of this image, we have an ancient sea covering Western North America in the Cretaceous. So this is dinosaur time. Dinosaurs were running around the land, swimming in the oceans. And this sea covered the entire continent, middle of the continent, and also deposited the Mancos Shale in the eastern part of Utah. Mancos is becoming a hot word in this basin, and it had a very, very different ancient environment that created it relative to, say, the Green River Formation deposited in Lake Uinta. So what exactly did geologists do over at the Utah Geosurvey to help this basin? Honestly, we are really focused on providing new data on current and prospective oil and gas targets. So we take broad sets of information from outcrop and core and cuttings, and we're trying to generate new information that people haven't looked at before in a broad context. We also generate new data sets, say data packages that oil and gas operators can take, plug into their software, and run with it, make life easy for them. We also work and collaborate with operators to identify research needs and, of course, go on field trips and provide workshops to get all geologists kind of on the same page with the current state of the basin. Now, something that I've taken upon myself in the past few years is to really focus on the data we can provide to this basin. And the idea here is to not reinvent the wheel. When a new operator comes into the Uinta Basin, they have a geology team that could end up with very little on their plate, but our goal really is to give them a bunch of fundamental geologic data in the form of geochemistry, subsurface tops, petrophysical data, give them all of our porosity and permeability data in a nice package and help them hit the ground running. We don't want people frazzling around wondering where and how to find information. We want to give them great packages to use right away. That's one of our big benefits to this basin that we're continuously working on with a handful of new publications coming out really soon. And I'm running short on time, so I'm going to start going quickly, but I do want to highlight some really cool things about this basin that I have hardly heard talked about at all in this conference so far. The Uinta Basin geology is really, really unique. We are the only basin in the United States to produce substantial oil from an ancient lake. The only one. All of the others are producing from ancient oceans. On a global scale, only a few other places produce a lot of oil from ancient lakes. With that, though, comes some complexities. Ancient lakes are really different than ancient oceans. They're working on totally different scales. The rocks are different, and when you have a new set of geologists coming in to learn, they really have to readjust their minds to what it means to drill in an ancient lake. Now, on this image, I have a picture of a modern ostracod. Show of hands, raise them really high. Who's ever heard the word ostracod? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe. Okay, this is fun. So ostracods are tiny, tiny little crustaceans. They look like clams, right? They have these little shells that open and close. They're actually more related to a clam, to a crab than a clam, but they're really important to ancient Lake Uinta. They loved ancient Lake Uinta, and they made really porous rocks that we drilled. So the outcrop image in the bottom right of this photo, and you can see a tiny little black blob there as a human for scale. This whole outcrop is filled with ostracods, and they make awesome reservoirs in the Uteland Butte, which is a word that a lot of you know. That's a really great porous reservoir in a lot of the basin. So you can tell this slide was made by a geologist, that person being me, with arrows and stars and circles going around everywhere. But the point that I want to make with it is that we know a lot about our different targets across the basin, whether that's in the subsurface or an outcrop. And we geologists take all of this information across the basin and we synthesize it into nice readable maps. These 3 different maps are all from the Utland Butte member, representing just different intervals of it, and every color on that map represents a different rock type with really different implications for oil and gas drilling. And these types of maps are the integral data point to understanding if you're going to expand a play well or not. These types of maps are made for every target in the basin. We have our own set coming out soon, but operators are also making similar maps in their own acreage themselves. I'm going to skip this slide in terms of time, but I do want the geologists specifically in this room to know that we care a lot about subsurface nomenclature, and we want to make it better for you and everyone else. Some new research. I've been on the Flagstaff limestone, mostly working in outcrop for the last 2 years. That will kind of ping some operators with a new potential play in this basin. We have a lot of work to do yet, but people are testing it and looking at it, and I have high ambitions for its future here, and also high ambitions to continue some really awesome research. We have a really awesome data set available on the Flagstaff, specifically from outcrop. We just need the time and resources to do it. A lot of you that have worked in the basin or seen oils coming out know that it varies a lot across the basin, right? On this slide, I'm showing you 8 different samples of oil, and each one of these is from a different horizontal target. And I don't know if any of you have actually seen these different oils laid out next to each other, but there's a huge gradation of color. And this gradation of color is actually a direct result of the maturity of the oil, which is a function of depth. So these oils, left to right, are listed essentially deepest to shallowest, and they're each representing what the oil looks like from a different horizontal target in different parts of the basin. So we've partnered with the US Geological Survey to do analyses on these, and ultimately they'll be used in a new basin-wide hydrocarbon assessment of the Uinta Basin to hopefully show the world in a new USGS report that we have a lot more oil in this basin than previously published. Still a work in progress. The Mancos Shale, a hot new topic. The UGS has had its hands in the Mancos Shale for a long time. Our state paleontologist got his PhD in the Mancos probably before I was born, and also has a brand new publication on it. This publication includes a lot of Mancos information from the eastern Uinta Basin where people are thinking about it now. This cross-section in the bottom right is a cross-section that includes Mancos and the new hot target. Also, just for fun, look in the bottom left, you see the photo of the human with their arms outstretched, right? With a big orange blob above. That big orange blob is a giant clam pulled out of the Mancos in Utah. Just some cool stuff. I've spent a lot of time looking at the Mancos in a microscopic view, and this is really important to understand in reservoir quality. And looking at these 2 black and white images, these are from a scanning electron microscope. And the thing I really want to highlight here is each one of these images is as wide as a human hair. This is super, super detailed, highly technical science. But these pictures help us image different types of clays and what the clay morphologies look like. And you have to know that to create your best well drilling plans and your well completions. SEM imaging is the only way that you're going to get great detailed information about that. Last slide for me before I hand it to Gabby. We have a handful of geologists looking at critical minerals, specifically in the Uinta Basin area. We actually just wrapped up a 2-year project looking at all sorts of critical minerals and rare earths, specifically focused on coal, but we looked at some other things or other deposits in the area, including the eastern Uinta Basin Green River Formation and even the Park City Formation, so what the Simplot mine is mining. We found some really interesting results that are now published on the Department of Energy website. Come find me. I would love to talk about the results in it. For now, I'm going to hand it off to Gabby. Thank you.
The presentation disappeared. We were using the same one. Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about some of the work the Utah Geological Survey has been doing on CCUS. And before I get into like all the nitty-gritty details, I just wanted a little review of what CCUS is, because people aren't as familiar with this as they are with like geothermal and some of the other technologies out there. And this stands for carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And this is multiple processes that start with capturing CO2, either from a coal-fired power plant, like a point source, or taking it directly from the atmosphere, such as a direct air capture hub. Then once you capture your CO2, then you can utilize it, like for example, in enhanced oil recovery, or you can store it underground, like geologic carbon storage. And that's what we're most interested in, being the Utah Geological Survey. But I do just want to point out that a lot of this research has had a boom lately due to some of these tax credits. And even this summer, they increased the tax credit for enhanced oil recovery from $50 per ton to $85 per ton. So there still seems to be maybe some interest in CCUS now. The Utah Geological Survey has been doing CCUS projects over the last 25 years. And we've had a couple of projects in the San Rafael Swell, down in the Aneth oil field, where we did an enhanced oil recovery project. And then even in southwest Utah by Iron Mountain, just west of Cedar City. But it's in the last few years that we really had this explosion of projects all over the state. There's a cluster of projects in southwest Utah in this renewable energy corridor tied to some geothermal projects like with Fervo and CERC and Thermo down in the state. And then we also have some projects in the Uinta Basin. We also have a statewide project where we're looking at the potential for CCUS storage across the entire state. And all of these projects together make more than $40 million worth of investment in CCUS in the state of Utah. So there's been a lot of money coming in to study the subsurface. And I'm going to talk about two of these projects, starting at the statewide scale. This is our Utah Statewide Carbon Storage Assessment Project. And this project is all about gathering relevant geological data, packaging it up, using it to assess the subsurface for geologic carbon storage potential, but then also to provide that to the public, to government officials, to the industry in a way that's easy to use. And so we've developed this web application where we have geological and technical data, like well information with well tops that you can actually filter. So if you're interested in the Entrada formation, you can go in and filter the wells by the Entrada. You can search by APIs. We're working on a geochemical database where we're going to put together all of our porosity, permeability, and salinity data. And right now we have a beta release of this app, so if you're interested, send me an email and I can get you the link so you can click around and test it out for us. We have also included some carbon storage assessments for this application. So we are taking all of this data and then evaluating the state ourselves by geologic region, sometimes using a grid. We've been looking at the state in different scales and trying to see where we think we have the most potential to store carbon underground. And we hope that this will be used for people to do natural resource estimates, calculate storage costs, and then that it will hopefully support future exploration in Utah, not just for CCUS, but this can be used for geothermal, for oil and gas, critical minerals, basically any kind of subsurface exploration. And here are some of the maps that will be provided in some of the reports that we're creating. This is 2 maps that we made for the Nugget Formation and the Entrada Formation across the whole basin, showing where these rocks are at suitable depths for CCUS. So this will all be made public and free for everyone to use. And then we are also collaborating with some scientists from the University of Utah Anthropology and Sociology departments, and they are gathering perspectives about CCUS from people in Utah. So if you're interested in being interviewed, we would really love to have some volunteers. And you can contact me, or you can contact Dr. Kate McGargle, and we can get you set up for an interview. But we'd really, really love to have some of you volunteer. Okay, now I'm going to focus in on one of our projects in the Uinta Basin, and this is our Carbon Safe Phase 2. The PI for this project is the Energy and Geoscience Institute, and the goals of this project were to establish the technical and economic feasibility of commercial-scale CO2 storage in the Uinta Basin, with the hope to sequester up to, or at least 50 million metric tons of CO2 over 30 years. And you might recognize this photo. This is the Sound of Silence Trail at Dinosaur National Monument, where 2 of our targets are exposed beautifully at the surface, the Entrada Sandstone and the Nugget Sandstone. But we're interested in looking at these sandstones about 40 miles south, near the Bonanza Power Plant, which would be our source of CO2. And there's a lot of data in the Uinta Basin, like Ryan was talking about. We have lots in the Mancos, lots in the Flagstaff, but we actually don't have a ton of data in the deeper units that we're interested in for carbon storage. And so our goals for this project are to shoot a 3D seismic survey to the northeast of the Bonanza Power Plant to evaluate the subsurface, and then also to drill a shallow core to test the Entrada and Nugget reservoirs, and also their caprock units. So that way we make sure that we can inject CO2 underground and that we can keep it there. If you want to know more, you can visit our website, geology.utah.gov. We have a QR code here, which will take you directly to our website. We have all kinds of resources here. The Energy and Minerals website has the most detailed information for subsurface exploration, but we have all kinds of data, databases, publications, and just general information if you're interested in cool geologic features in the state. And last, all I'm going to say is that we have some really wonderful geologists that are focused specifically on the Uinta Basin, doing all kinds of geology from critical minerals, CCUS, mining like industrial minerals, oil and gas, and we really, really encourage you to reach out to us if you need anything, because we are here to provide data to you and to provide support and geologic information. And so that's all I have for you.